home is no longer safe, but it will be again. Atreus, are you ready?
Yo, what up? My name is Crash, and here are my God of War Ragnarok story theories and predictions. Without further ado, let's begin.
You seem like a calm and reasonable person.
Who are you?
Are you a calm and reasonable person?
As you may have heard me say before, there are tens of ways the game can begin. One of these particular ways is how I believe this story will begin before Fimbulwinter, as we left off at the same place with Kratos and Atreus leaving their home. Here is how it would go down. The opening scene of the game is of the campfire in their home, unlike God of War, where it was a phase-marked tree. Once the difficulty is selected, it will pan out, revealing Mimir, who is reading a book. Then Atreus is revealed, who is standing by his bed looking at his bow, checking to ensure that it can withstand the pressure when the arrows are knocked back into the bowstring. Just as his mother said he would, he has now grown into it. We begin to be panned further back, and finally, Kratos is shown by the campfire, standing and staring into it. It dims, displaying his huge broad build and pitch black shadow. It burns brighter once again. One would notice the white ash skin having faded away slightly further, yet the scars on his wrists seem to not age. Kratos and Atreus will need to restock on food, especially as Fimbulwinter is upon us. They will gather their necessary amenities and leave. The animals have sensed the approaching winter, and many of them have already sought shelter and have nearly begun hibernation. Due to this lack of open game, this causes them to move deeper into the forest than usual. While they venture forward, they encounter numerous undead, as the situation with Draugr has worsened. They also encounter new enemies and make their way through the treacherous forest. Atreus, simply focused on finding game, has lost track as to where they are. But Kratos still remembers the path back. After what seems to be half a day, they finally stumble across an animal, a small deer, a fawn. Kratos stands still and watches his son. Atreus already pictures exactly how he will take down the game. However, just as Atreus is about to set himself up, winds begin to blow, every second becoming stronger, louder, and colder. Accompanying the wind is snow that also grows in size, coldness, and quantity. Atreus thinks nothing of this, as a light draft or snow will not completely impede his shots. Taking his time with the goal of being silent, he raises his bow to his eyes with his left hand while drawing an arrow with the other. He slowly and quietly draws the arrow back, adding more and more tension every second that passes. With seconds past, the arrow is ready to be volleyed. He takes a breath in and closes his eyes. In his mind, he thanks Mother Nature for providing them with this meal. Opening his eyes, he lays them on the bow, and a memory comes to mind. When Kratos was making his way through the tens of dark elves in Alfheim, it was right before they released the light of Alfheim from its imprisonment. He remembers how he was trying to be precise, but then his father told him to shorten the time between his volleys, as there are many targets and he will not miss. Atreus looks back up towards the fawn. However, before the arrow can be released from its tension-filled bowstring, the worsening weather conditions cause the animal to flee. Atreus decides to run after it, undrawing the arrow and putting his bow on his back. But before he chases the fawn, Kratos tells him to stop, as they must conserve as much energy as possible and not let the animal be aware of their presence. Atreus knows he is right, and so he walks. The winds begin to howl, as now you must raise your voice in order to be heard, and the snow will soon cover what is 30 feet ahead. Kratos, already anticipating the weather conditions to continue to hinder them, says they must seek shelter as at this point the snow covers more and more of what is ahead quicker as fog does. Kratos takes the lead and Atreus walks behind. The white ash skin nearly becomes invisible in the falling snow, yet his red tattoos stand out like a great fire moving forward. As they walk, Atreus sees the opportunity to ask Kratos, so he does, saying, "Father." Kratos responds, "Yes." "Why is it that your skin is white like the snow and clouds? When we went on the journey to spread Mother's ashes, we encountered many enemies, men and gods, and all their skin was not white like yours is. And the red marks on you, what are they from? Did Mother place it onto you as an anniversary gift?" Atreus asked. Kratos says nothing and continues to walk, seeming to act as if he did not hear what Atreus said, or pausing as if thinking what he should say. The question was heard, yet now he is deciding if he should not give an answer. But if he does, what will he say? Kratos says, "No, it is not a gift. The markings were made in honor of someone very close to me and the lands I used to live on." Ignoring the other question, he says aloud, "Here, a cave." "Atreus, watch outside as I clear the cave." Atreus stands in front of the cave and looks into the open forest, but there is not much forest to see, as the snow now only allows you to see 20 feet ahead. Kratos moves into the cave and sees no threats. He then walks back up to Atreus and tells him, "Atreus, hunt the fawn, but you will only do so with one arrow. Your other arrows will remain here, as to not get affected by the weather. This is a test, and with it being so young and without a mother, it has nearly no sense of danger. Do not fail. Our survivability depends on it. Now go." Atreus responds, "Wait, without you? Unless you want me to change my mind, leave now." So Atreus takes one arrow from his quiver, full of arrows, and walks out of the cave, leaving Kratos to himself. Kratos stands and looks into the dark, empty cave, seeming to reflect on their current situation. Perhaps thinking how out of nowhere winter has happened so abruptly, or perhaps thinking as to how he can tell Atreus the truth of his tattoo and the haunting ash laid upon his skin. He turns and faces the cave's entrance, sees and then grabs stones, shrubs, sticks, and chunks of firewood to create a campfire. He sets up the campfire by first laying the stones in a circle. The material is placed inside, and then he strikes a stone with the axe to create embers that light up the fire. He sits on a nearby stone and stares into the fire once again, thinking back to when they traveled to Jotunheim, continuing to ponder who the man in the final mural was. Why was Atreus holding him in his hands, yelling up at the sky? Similar to the relic found in Tyr's temple, the portrait painted a young, vengeful Kratos atop a pile of dead soldiers, yelling up at the gods filled with rage. However, he stops thinking about it any further and thinks how he would tell Atreus the truth of his white ash skin and red tattoo. Almost any way he approached it would be difficult, not for Atreus to understand, but difficult for himself to relive those days and relay them back to Atreus.
You'll get your answers soon enough. Well, some of them.
Angrboda's role will definitely be in encountering and helping Kratos and Atreus. When we travel to Vanaheim, we will meet her for the first time. At the end of the trailer, we see and hear her say, "You'll get your answers soon enough." Well, some of them. She says this because Atreus figures out that she is a giant, and so he becomes dumbfounded and asks her how she is still alive. How after all this time she has not been hunted, and also asking if there are other giants, that there should be more surviving giants. And in this particular cutscene at the end, this actually isn't the first time they're meeting each other, as she is walking away by herself rather than being accompanied by Kratos and Atreus. So maybe this is her heading off towards somewhere else to other giants, while Kratos and Atreus maybe head towards Durlin or somewhere else.
I'm a god, boy. From another land far from here. When I came to these shores, I chose to live as a man. But the truth is, I was born a god.
By far, the most difficult thing Kratos will have to deal with is reliving and telling his son of his past life. As Kratos, how would you tell Atreus of your past life? That you once had a family and that you were tricked into murdering them. A brother who was killed. How you were ripped from your mother and father at an early age to train. How you were once a young man murdering innocent person after person, god after god. One who lost everything and has still never found true peace, as he will never be able to apologize to his first wife and daughter. Here is one way Kratos will tell Atreus. Atreus, says Kratos. Yes, father, responds Atreus. Kratos began to speak. Son, it is time you know the truth of who I once was, of the land where I came from, and why I am here. I will only say this once and never speak of it again, so listen close. The land in which I am from is Greece, a village called Sparta. I was a Spartan general, the best we had to offer. I was conquering land after land, one victory after another. However, one day we faced the merciless barbarians. They outnumbered us by the thousands, and many fellow Spartans were slain that day. Their commander was about to strike the final blow upon me. However, I made an irrational decision. I called upon Ares, the god of war, to save me from death. I said, Ares, destroy my enemies, and my life is yours. He came forth and in that moment aided me. You've asked me of my blades before. My blades are a curse. Ares fastened the chains to my skin as a permanent reminder of my deal. He wanted to make me the perfect warrior. I was blinded by the feeling of brotherhood and always wanting more. However, there was always one woman who stood up to me, the only person who did not fear me in those lands. I had a first family before you and your mother. My first wife was named Lysandra, and my daughter Calliope. One day, I was destroying a village that was made in honor of Athena. Then it was considered an offense against Lord Ares. The village was destroyed except for one building. I ran up to the building alone. Outside was an old woman, the village's oracle. She stood in front of the building. She told me what I will find inside are greater dangers than I know. I ignored her warning. Stupidly, I pushed her aside and entered the building. I murdered everyone inside. However, the two final victims were. I clutched them both in my hands. It was later revealed how Ares tricked me. The oracle was in fact Ares in disguise. I was also cursed to bear the ashes of them onto my skin. My skin is what you see now, to remind anyone and everyone of what I had done. I seek vengeance against Ares and I successfully killed him. I wanted to free myself from my life of torture. However, I was made the new god of war. I was once again infatuated with victory and rage, enough so that my father Zeus killed me. But I escaped the land of the dead. I will finish this and only say what's important. I killed and am responsible for thousands of innocent people's deaths. I also, in a fit of rage, vengeance, and retribution, killed many gods. After all, killing those who had brought me this misery, I still found no peace. I attempted to free myself and move on in life, but curse after curse was laid onto me. Not being able to rid myself of the blades, constant nightmares of what I had done and losing everything, I then ventured away, getting as far away from Greece. I am the ghost of Sparta, the god of war. Atreus then says, "We can fight Thor and win the war."
Stop thinking like a father for a moment and start thinking like a general.
No!
Freya's temple. The ring is just as beautiful as I'd remembered.
Freya.
A Vanir god. Freya's brother, actually.
Freyr has a long history with the Elves, one of the few gods welcome here.
Freyr is the Light Elf King. His wife, Gerd, is the Light Elf Queen. And so it makes one wonder what their role in the story will be and how it will impact Kratos and Atreus' journey. We happen to see some in the trailer. Now seeming to have harnessed the light, they no longer wear their cloaks, or at least some. I would think there are different tiers of light elves or ranks, such as those who guard the light, guard Freyr, and those who would go to war. The light elves are either still waiting for Freyr to return, or he has already returned and ordered them to attack Kratos and Atreus. One final thing that I have to say on this is in the book Lore and Legends, taking place 1 year after the events of God of War, Atreus constantly dreams about the light of Alfheim. That's actually going to be one of the next 3 videos. Why does he keep dreaming about the light of Alfheim? So that obviously is going to be a big part in the next game, Alfheim.
It's all you ever talk about, over and over. Do something about it or shut up already.
I see.
Yeah! We're sick of hearing about little people's little problems!
Throughout their journey, Kratos and Atreus dealt with problems between each other. One of the more prevalent ones that continued to show was Atreus' anger and rage. He lost control multiple times and was blinded by it, exactly like Kratos was. Multiple times throughout the story, he either yells, screams, and needlessly verbally and physically harms friends and enemies. Regardless, in the new trailer they both argue. Atreus vocalizes how he needs to discover who Loki is, more specifically his Jotunheim heritage. Now with him having gained even more knowledge, grit, and wisdom, he could leave Kratos, finding himself walking amongst the wolves like in the mural, and perhaps Atreus disappears, going somewhere only giants can, and Kratos is left behind. Or another way is how Kratos is forced to make a difficult decision, causing Atreus to hate him forever and even try killing him. But in the end, Kratos leaves for Egypt and his son now hates him forever. Alright, man, hopefully you enjoyed that video. Took me a little bit of time to put everything together, especially trying to talk throughout all these words, putting cutscenes and all that stuff. But I also wanted to talk about my entire God of War Ragnarok story prediction. I know I've been asked about it. I've seen it in the comments. I'm definitely still working on it. I may do like a part 1 in my next theory video. Like I might just say what I've done so far. I don't know. Anyways, just please make sure that you try to like the video, share it with someone else. If you are new here, check out some of my other videos. I know you definitely like them. Enjoy the rest of your day, dog.
But surely you can understand. You were once a father, too.
That part of my life is gone forever. There is no hope